All right, here we are, bright and early. Earlier than normal. Saturday, October the 26th. And one more day closer to going hunting. I'm going to get right into it, all right? I'm going to get right into it. If I got any rants or babbles, I'll save them for the end, I hope. This email is titled Never Told. I have never talked to a single soul about this. I ask for your kindness to keep my identity secret, as I have a lot to lose. I live in Mendon, Utah, born and raised in Cache Valley. I grew up rock climbing there. I'm actually shaking, just revisiting this memory. I was 19, and I'm 45 now, and I decided to go check out a new crag that all the local climbers were raving about. It was called Hamburger Hill. I may have read this. I don't know. A lot comes from Utah. A lot of rock climbers there. I go up solo with everyone knowing where I'm going, also when I will be back. My plan? Get the roots cleaned up and choss? CHOSS removed that I overheard a few climbers complaining about. Basically, I was being a help. Maybe a 6-hour hike to get to the wall that was sunk deep into the inverted V-shaped dark ravine. From the road, looking up, it's almost as if it could swallow you whole. Stunning to say the least. There's not much of a trail being as the crag was pretty new and all, and I ended up bushwhacking most of the way, crisscrossing through pine, then aspen, then traversing big, long, unforgivable rock slides. It was a total mess, bud. After making the ascent to the wall, I noticed that I had my work cut out for me. Lots and lots of cleaning needed to be done. I decided alone was not the best idea. I needed help. My plan was to camp out for 2 days, do what I can do, some bouldering, a form of climbing, and then come back at a later date with help. Night number 1. I was relaxing in my tent, reading through the climbing book at that time, dreaming about first ascents on and on sites and so on. From the left side of my tent, I hear a rock, or a branch, I'm not sure. But the projectile clipped a couple of branches on the way to my tent and absolutely hit the dead center of the side of my dinky tent. I'll never forget how it hit dead center. I thought of nothing but fear. I yelled, "Get out of here!" and "Go on!" in the dark with my head stuck just inside of my tent, afraid to push it out of the slightly frayed and open zipper. Then another and another. It was the accuracy. God, it was flawless. The exact same spot as the last. I could not hold it together. Questions running at mock speed through my head, and I started to cry. And then silence. Every minute felt like hours. I did not sleep until daybreak. 4 hours total. Wow. Day 1. I found 3 odd-shaped rocks at the bottom of the tent on the side that was hit. When I say odd, I mean that they were not from the rock slides I previously came up. Impossible. They were very round river rocks. I was guessing to myself, but how did they get way up here? All about the exact same size as well. It always seems to be the round river rocks, right? I was a wreck. I remember thinking, big fire tonight. Nothing happened all day except this eerie feeling that someone was watching me while I built a huge mountain of firewood, as if someone is staring me down. God, I know this may not make sense, but I could feel eyes. Night number 2. Big fire built, and darkness coming. I heard a knock to my right, like a baseball bat smacking a tree trunk or something. Then again, but a different location this time. I looked everywhere I could before the darkness swallowed the landscape. I stood by my dinky tent, scanning over the steep terrain, and I saw nothing. I tried to rationalize the knocks, but that got me nowhere. I was frantic, thinking of the possibilities. Then, before I knew it, darkness. This is tough here. I'll try my best to describe what I heard that night. A-yee, ya, ya, wah, whistle. I know what I heard. It was a groaning, effing whistle. The tone was heavy, powerful, desperate, deep, invigorating, hellish, and nothing I've ever heard before. Ever. I said, F the fire, get in the tent, move now, move, go, go. As I yelled desperately to my paralyzed body, to myself, but at last I could not move. I could not move, and I didn't know why. I was crying without crying, if that makes any sense. Tears and blank-faced. Until I was knocked out of my fear stupor with the whiz of a rock flying right by my right ear, almost as forcing me to get up and run. I jumped in my tent, drowning in silent tears, frozen. I stared at the fire through my tent, watching the yellow turn lighter shades, acting as an hourglass to my demise, until ultimately it was burnt out. I could not feed the fire from fear. The glow of coals remained as the sounds that night drove me mad. I could never explain. God, it sounded painful to me. Or a lost call of some sort. I felt a sadness I cannot explain. I was pelted a lot through the night with rocks, and groaning, which seemed to come from the underbelly of a beast, until finally the day hit. F this, I am gone. Daylight hits and I jump up and pack like hell. Nothing pretty. It was just to get the hell out of there thing. I'm bear hugging most of my gear in front of me until I hit the rock slides again and dropped most of everything. My gear tumbled and tumbled, except my tent, which did not go far. I gather up my things best I can as I descend down. With my shins cut up and bleeding through my pants, I stopped to assess the wounds. In that one moment, I decided to turn around. One last look, I tell myself, and as I look up, the dark, inverted, V-shaped ravine, cloaked in white and green and browns and black, I made out a man, wearing a full-on fur suit like those bear suits Mountain wore way back then. No teeth on the headpiece from what I could see, though. Could not make out a headpiece at all, but was covered head to toe in fur. Baffled, I thought to myself, some dude willingly just effing put me through hell? I lost it, man. I thought that MFer, F you, I yelled at him, you piece of shit. I went on and on. Man, the things I said, the man never moved. 10 minutes. I waited and nothing. I turned around, instantly relieved, but still going to hike out of here to call for a ride. This whole time, it was a mountain man? I told myself, but why the big coat, I thought? It's midsummer. I hiked 8 to 10 hours-ish down out of Logan Canyon to a phone to call for a ride for my mom. I never said a word to her, or anyone for that matter, until this email. All these years later, I know what I saw back then, 10,000% Bigfoot. No question in my mind. What made up my mind was when I went up there 5 years later, and I will explain. My friends invited me for a 5-day reunion hike and climb up at Hamburger Hill. A fun get-together, they said. I told them I would only go up the first day and come back down. Basically, yes, but I won't sleep overnight. I also asked them to reconsider the location, but was denied. Then as we hike up the dark valley, everyone is asking why I won't spend the night. I lied my ass off from fear of judgment and my old friends. Embarrassed, as we ascend the dark inverted V, I'm consumed with fear. I should have stayed home, I thought. Eventually the trail was leading us right next to the tree that the mountain man was standing halfway or so behind, and I'm eyeing this tree hard as I did not want to lose its location. Every step I get closer and closer, I delve into the dark depths of anxiety. Finally, it is right in front of me, and it's big, way too big. I thought I lost the tree because his mass dwarfed the one he stood behind. This can't be it. I remember a black spot on the trunk, and I quickly look at the base of the tree. This is the tree. I fake a rest break to my friends and encourage them to go ahead, and I'll catch up. How in the F? Speechless, I think to myself. 9 feet. Give a little, take a little. I was completely lost up until many years later when I heard similar noises in other videos, and until I saw these, I had no real answers for this. Ticked every box for me. I now know I was face to face with a Sasquatch. Though hard to write, this felt good to get off my chest. I quit rock climbing. I was featured in magazines and highly ranked. I climbed with Boone speed. Chris Sharma, to name a few. Look them up for fun if you want. Sasquatch changed my life forever. I can blank out that name. I'm not sure if it was his or someone else's. I never climbed that day with my friends or after my altercation for that matter. I sold my climbing gear and I've lived with depression and anxiety issues up to this very day. I'm now an archer. For all my fellow stick flingers out there, Matthews TRX 38, baby. Slowly, I'm working on getting the strength to get back in the woods to hunt. It's not easy to share these secrets of mine. So thank you for this platform and for the inspiration to get back out into the woods. Thank you for keeping my identity private, and especially reading my story. That one sounds kind of familiar, and I don't mind reading that again because it just goes to show why we're here, what it does to you. Right, you guys? And what it can do to you. It sucks when I hear about people losing quality of life. It makes me angry. It makes me frustrated. Okay, here's another one. Title of this email is, What Are They? Hey Steve, I believe all these cryptids are definitely not from our planet. I grew up in the woods of Massachusetts in the 50s and 60s, and there were no EBGBs in the woods where we played, and we didn't play like today's kids. We played in those woods, from deep forests into the marshy rivers. My sister and I played in forest towers, pickle barrels, and hiked through the woods to the marshes of the North River, all the way to duck hunters' blinds. Now, I only smelled one of these dudes early in the AM, and gag me with a spoon, the smell was worse than the stink of a skunk. And as I told you, my husband is a retired state trooper who pulled over in a very rural, remote area in the woods during a snowstorm on the midnight shift to take a short cat nap during a snowstorm. Lucky him? No way. He woke up, got out of his cruiser to take a leak, his description, not mine, LOL, and got the shock of his life. There were footprints in the deep snow surrounding his cruiser, circling his cruiser. Footprints that were just there, not originating from someplace else. No trail from the roadway in. Let me tell you, it didn't take him long to take his leak. Just seeing those footprints circling his cruiser way out in the boonies during a New England snowstorm in the middle of the night while he had dozed off freaked him out. Thank God the freaking door locks automatically. The door locks automatically lock in the cruisers. And thank goodness he didn't see it. If he had seen this midnight visitor, he honestly may have suffered a heart attack for sure. And I have a nose like a frickin' hound dog. What I smelled from the opening in my window, from the air conditioner placement, was not a skunk. When a skunk sprays, the odor is overpowering, and it lingers forever. What I smelled was a putrid, skunky odor with the smell of shit and decay. The smell was there for a couple of minutes at the most, and poof, it was gone. I also have that sixth sense, as does my son Brian. And as I told you, Brian and his son took a casual walk in the woods here. Both Brian and my grandson immediately noticed the entire woods around them just went completely silent. No cricket, grasshopper, fly, bee sounds whatsoever. It was a silence that you could hear a pin drop. Neither Brian, Gavin, nor myself are any way near being dumber than stumps. We know what is out there. You won't find us in the woods of New England ever again. We only live a mere 20 miles from the city of Boston. You don't have to live in the faraway places to be close to those beings from the cosmos. Suffice to say, my husband never pulled his cruiser over again in remote rural areas for his brakes. And the evidence of missing 411, thousands of people just disappearing without a freaking trace, is both chilling and surreal. I have no idea what they are or why these beings are here, and I have no idea if they or something else is responsible for all these missing people. What do I know? What do I know is people today definitely cannot wander and play in the beautiful woods as we once did. People need to wake up and smell the Java. Don't go anywhere alone. Lock your car and home doors and windows. Always. And try to develop a more sensitive sixth sense by paying attention to your immediate surroundings. Glad you're out here informing the public to exactly what's going on out there, Steve. Again, be safe out there. These beings, benign or nefarious, require our due diligence, especially when we are in environments that are remote and secluded. Sincerely, Arlene. Appreciate your email, Arlene. I wonder what else your husband has learned about this topic, being the position he is professionally. But there you go, you guys. There's another one sharing the fact that these prints somehow come out of the middle of frickin' nowhere. There's a police officer in the middle of nowhere in his cruiser, and prints circle his police car, cruiser, and they didn't come from anywhere. They just appeared out of nowhere and circled his vehicle. What are you barking at? Right? Explain that one. All you people that still set trail cameras and think they migrate to follow fish and shit or whatever they're doing. Okay, what do you need? Do you need out in the shop? Huh? Do you? Like she wants to wrestle. Usually we have a huge wrestling match in the shop every morning. Like, it gets out of hand sometimes. She kind of scares me, but... What do you need? Huh? Are you a big goon? What do you need? Huh? What do you need? You looking to fight? Are you? Okay, look. We got some people to be heard, alright? Not you. You gotta sit here and be patient like you always are. Alright? Okay, you big goon? Alright, you big goon? Alright. Okay, okay! Every day. Okay, let me read. You know the routine. Don't stare me down like that. Alright, hold on, I'm gonna let her out. You go out. I gotta try and get the heat in here. Come on. There you go. Go play. There you go. Beat it. Nope, not good enough. She wants me to go out and fight with her. Wrestle with her. Oh my god. Quit it. Quit it. You know, back when my horse passed away, there was a whole shit pile of emails came in about death and near-death experiences. I talked about death for all in a video. And I kind of skipped over a whole bunch of them because there's probably hundreds. And it was a little off topic because I really needed to get people's voices heard to get their trauma out and shared, right? But I grabbed one yesterday and I put it in the notes here. Now this email is titled, Death Is There More? Steve, I'm very sorry for your loss. I feel for your pain because right now I'm watching my mom pass away slowly. We just called in hospice, and this is one of the hardest things I've had to deal with. So I know exactly what you're going through. Oh, that's sad. Now, please let me tell you my near-death experience. And if you feel the need to share it, please do, because what I'm about to tell you is 100% true, except for the names of the people involved. I won't use the real names, but feel free to use mine. And there were 4 other people there that witnessed this on November 26, 1984 at 5:26 p.m. I was shot while deer hunting. Whoa. I had taken my little brother, that I'll call Sam, and a friend of a friend I'll call Joe, as well as my parents and another guy out deer hunting. It was opening day of Ohio deer gun season. I'd killed my deer previously with a bow, so I wasn't hunting. It's a few typos, lack of punctuation, okay, guys, but I'll try to make it as smooth as I can. So I wasn't hunting. The man that I'll call Joe didn't have a lot of experience hunting, but I thought he knew how to handle a gun because he was a veteran of Vietnam War. I posted my little brother across the valley from Joe, and I took off up and over the backside of the hill. I would walk slow and try to push deer towards them. I was gone about 2 hours when I heard my brother shoot. So I went back to check on him, and he was only 13 at the time, and please note that we were 2.5 miles from the nearest road or house or anything. The only clearing was the power line clear cut running in through the valley. And please remember that because it plays a huge part in this story. Upon reaching my brother, he told me he shot a big buck. So we went back across the valley to get Joe and give the deer time to die. As you know, you never start tracking an animal right after it's hit. If you push them, they won't lay down and bleed out. Anyway, we waited about 30 minutes. I know that's not very long, but it was getting dark, and we had to meet the rest of the crew at the trucks around 7 p.m. So, off we go tracking the deer. I asked the guys to unload their guns, so my little brother did, and he walked beside me as we tracked the deer, and Joe was behind us. We tracked the deer to the creek, and I had just reached the other side and grabbed a small tree to pull myself and my brother up the bank when all of a sudden, boom! And all I remember is seeing flames pass through my pants and watching my leg go flying off to the right. Yep, you guessed it. The dude didn't unload his gun like I asked, and to this day I don't know exactly what happened, but the gun went off. And I took a 12-gauge deer slug at less than 5 yards to hit me perfectly in the right knee and removed the lower part of my leg from my knee down. Oh my God. Now here's the good part. Like I said, we were 2.5 miles from any help, and Joe was freaking out. I guess the blood and trauma brought back a lot of bad memories for him, so I had to compose myself. And I removed my own belt and I put it around my stub to try to stop the bleeding. Well, it didn't stop. It just slowed it down, but it never stopped bleeding. Joe put me on his back and started carrying me towards the power lines. We finally reached the clearing when Joe laid me down, and 2 people walked up, and to this day, we don't know who they were, or where they came from. But the man said he was a doctor, and the lady said she was an RN. And they just happened to be in the area birdwatching when they heard all the yelling. Like I said before, we were 2.5 miles from anything, and nobody had permission to be there, and nobody in their right mind would be birdwatching during opening day of gun season in Ohio. Back then, in our part of Ohio, they used to let kids out of school for deer gun season. Steve, like I said, those 2 people came out of the woods, and believe me, it's not the easiest place to walk in. It's either straight up or straight down with tons of green briars and honeysuckle thickets. While laying in that power line, I died. I'd lost over 5.5 units of blood, and nobody that was there can explain what happened next. They said I stopped breathing and my eyes rolled back in my head. I died. I'm not sure what happened or how it happened, but I remember looking down and seeing my body and all the commotion. I guess you'd call it an out-of-body experience. I don't know, I can only relay what I remember and what I was told later. Everyone that was on the scene by this time, my parents, Sam, and Joe were all there, and they said that those people put their hands on my chest, and when they did, my eyes opened, and I started breathing again. But they didn't do any chest compressions or any type of CPR, and I started breathing. My brother ran for help and found my mom, who got in my Jeep and found my dad, and they drove to a house to call for a care flight helicopter. I remember waking up and asking for my hat because I never went anywhere without my hat back then. And as the chopper landed and the flight medics loaded me up, the man, one of the angels, gave me his hat. And I still have that hat to this day, and it's stained with my blood. I have it in a bag in my gun safe as a reminder. I'll never forget that day. Steve, I can't explain any of this, but I do know for a fact that there is more to this life than we know. And I'm 100% sure there's more to our afterlife. I'm a true believer in God and angels because I've been on the other side, and I was pulled back. I spent the next 1.5 years in recovery. I have a leg with no knee. My right leg is fused straight. I have 27 pins and 41 screws and a stainless steel rod from my groin to my ankle. And I've had 57 surgeries because of that one accident. Yes, life has been rough, but I know that God let me live for a reason. Why I don't know, that part I'm still trying to figure out. Maybe to share my story with you so that you can share it with others. I guess I'll find out sometime in the future. Am I scared of dying? And I have to honestly say, no way. I'm kind of looking forward to it because my life's been rough. I can't do a lot these days, but I still try because you can't ever stop trying. How true is that? And one later thing in this subject that I have to tell you, my wife works on med-surg floor, and she's told me several stories where she's been in the room with dying patients that see lights or people they love up in the corner of the room. And they're talking to their loved ones as they pass. So yes, Steve, you are correct. There's more to life than what we know. What it is, I don't know, but I believe there is a God, and He watches over us, and my heart goes out to those that don't believe in something. God bless, brother. Kyle Maynard. Kyle, I hope it's okay to use your name. That is one hell of a frickin' story and experience, isn't it? Whoa. Oh my God. What do you even say to that one? I've definitely come close to being shot a few times. Too close. My head's ringing right now for one of them. Shit. Gun safety, right? Well, safety period. Everybody gets a crazy ass random accidents all the time. Fatal ones. Stupid ways to go. Stupid accidents a lot of the times. Yeah, I know people firsthand who died, and every one of them said flat out, they're up in the corner of the room looking down on the body. Every single one of them. And they also, another thing that is common is it was the color of like shooting glasses, you know, like a little off yellow tinge is the color everything went when they were looking down on themselves. There's definitely more to this. It's just as we go through this lifetime trying to figure out why. Why am I here and why are we all going through this shit? What a crazy answer it's going to be when this one's over, right? Isn't it going to be bizarre? It's going to be very, very interesting when we get to that next segment of our existence. I wonder how many, there's a lot of books written on this topic. A lot of people have shared that we're only here to learn. We're here to learn, and if we don't learn our lessons, apparently we got to come back and do it again. Who came back from the other side and let somebody know that one? I don't know. Is it true? I don't know. I hope not. Imagine if you come to this lifetime and screw up, you got to start all over again. Back to go. Ugh, who wants to go through all that confusion again in the earlier days, on average? Anyways, babbling. No more babbling. Let me get to it. That's one hell of a story, my man. Holy shit. Holy shit. All right, one more. One more. Looks like a long one. I don't know what it's about. It was titled The Serpent. Fairly recent email. Greetings, Steve and Hat Hunt family. I've been on the fence for some time now about whether I should send in my experiences or not, but was encouraged by a couple people in the comments section. So I've decided to share. I know the topic here is predominantly Sasquatch with an occasional dogman encounter, but I want to talk about something else because I believe it might help someone feel that they are not alone if they had had similar experiences. All right. Dr. Ketchum said she saw a reptile print close to where she thinks a portal might have been. I think I might have had an encounter with the type of being that left that print. I first want to take you further back to a time before I saw this being, because I believe there is a possibility that these events may be related. One of the main reasons I want to share these experiences is that they share some striking similarities in the paranormal aspects of some of the Sasquatch and Dogman encounters I have heard about. I also want to make it clear that I am not trying to imply anything about the nature of my experiences. I'm just presenting the details as I remember them and continue to have an open mind as I explore others and my own experiences. So here it goes. Right on. Came to the right place. Let's do it. In 2014, I was stationed in Kunsan Air Base in the Republic of Korea, where I operated and maintained one of those U.S. Army's air defense radar systems that was part of the Patriot missile fire control system, which was essentially a last line of defense for American and Korean air assets if another war broke out between the North and South Koreas. All of the Army personnel on base shared the same living quarters with the Air Force in a large 8-story building, if I recall correctly, filled with dormitories that each had a common area with a kitchen and eating area and 4 separate bedrooms. I lived on the floor right below the top one and had 3 other dorm mates who were all from my unit. We typically consume a fair amount of alcohol on the weekends when we didn't have duty the next day, but usually did not consume more than a beer or 2 on the nights prior to having to work. I honestly do not recall if I had anything to drink or not on these 2 nights that I am going to talk about, but if I did, it wasn't much at all, as they both occurred on nights prior to having next day duty. One night, sometime during one of the autumn months, I believe, I was awoke in my bed to find my body completely paralyzed. The only thing I could move was my eyes. I don't know why, but I felt absolutely terrified. I had heard of sleep paralysis before and felt pretty certain that's what it was. That is what I was experiencing. But I just couldn't understand where this immense fear was coming from. I began praying for the first time in a very long while for the experience to just stop. And after what felt like maybe a minute, I fell back to sleep. I didn't really give the experience much thought the following day, but had this strange feeling as I was getting ready for bed that I was ready for something, or like something was going to happen that night. And sometime during the night, I woke to find my body once again completely paralyzed. This time I did not feel any fear, but felt a sort of numbness throughout my entire body. After several seconds of lying motionless in my bed, I observed and felt my body begin to levitate up from the bed with my blanket still over my legs. When my body was about 2 feet off the bed, I saw the blanket that was over me fall through my legs. Not between them or to the side, but through them. I had not a body experience before, and in my head, that is what I was telling myself was happening. Despite what I had just witnessed, I floated over to where the light switch was in my room and could slightly move my arms out at this point, so I tried to turn on the light. I was able to see my hand touch the light switch as I flipped it up, but the light did not come on. After I flipped the switch, I began floating over to where the bedroom door was. As I moved towards the door, my body rotated so that the bed was visible to me. Still telling myself that this was not an out-of-body experience, I looked over at the bed expecting to see my body lying there, but it was not. I only saw the wrinkled blanket on the bed in the spot where it had apparently fallen through my legs. Might I also add that everything in the bedroom appeared to be exactly where it was before I went to sleep, which makes me think that this was not merely some crazy vivid dream. After looking back at the bed, my body began to move through the door. The door was not open. It was closed and my body moved right through it. I don't remember anything after that except seeing pitch blackness all around me for several seconds until I seemingly fell back asleep and started to dream. I don't recall anything noteworthy from my subsequent dream state. I had not thought too much about that experience for the span of about a year. My tour in Korea had ended, and I was now stationed in Fort Bliss in Texas, my home state. My son, his mom, and I were all living in a cozy 2-story house on the outskirts of El Paso near Horizon City. At some point, my son and his mom had gone out of town to visit a friend, so I was by myself in the house when I wasn't working. I was watching a series of documentaries one night while alone in the house, and one of them had to do with the topic of extraterrestrials. At some point in the documentary, I heard the term alien abduction. Upon hearing those words, and for whatever reason, memories of those 2 nights in Korea began to surface in my mind. I don't recall if it was that particular night or another one, but I was sitting on the couch watching something on the television and started seeing an occasional flash of white light out of the corner of my eye. The flashes were coming from the kitchen and appeared to be emanating from behind the counter, which was located between the kitchen and the living room. I was telling a friend/colleague about these flashes of light in the house, and they recommended I get an eye examination done just to see if I might have had a tear on one of my retinas before jumping to any conclusions of this being something supernatural. I got an eye exam a couple weeks later, and just as I thought, there was nothing wrong with my eyes, other than my nearsighted vision. A couple months later, we're having a party at the house and had several friends over. At some point during the evening, a couple of our friends approached me and asked if the house was haunted, or if I had experienced anything strange while living there. I told them that I was not sure, and I asked why they were curious about that. They both explained that it looked like somebody was taking pictures with a flash camera just out of view behind the stair railing that led up to the second story. Yet everyone that was present at the party was accounted for in the living room. At the time, they witnessed the flashes. I honestly don't know what those flashes were, but I have heard stories from a few people now where they describe a Sasquatch or other type of being disappearing in a flash of white light, and have personally witnessed 2 very quick flashes of white light that occurred side by side, both within the span of a single second, in the sky while on a ranch near Enos, Texas. A CE5, Human-Initiated Extraterrestrial Contact, event was taking place during the time I saw this. Imagine seeing a large nuclear explosion far out in space. That's the best way I know to describe what these flashes look like. Okay, now for the part about the reptilian being. This was not a waking life experience, but occurred while I was asleep one night. I don't know if this is an astral projection experience or a dream intrusion or a subconscious memory that was associated with another experience, possibly that night in Korea. I honestly don't know. And as I said before, I'm not implying that this was an alien abduction or anything particular or any other particular thing. My then wife and I had gone to bed, and at some point during the night I had a sort of a dream, a vision or something. This dream felt very different from any I have had before or since. It felt so real. I tried to come up with an analogy to try to convey how different it was from all the rest I have had, but I can't seem to find the right words to describe it. It just felt very, very different. I recall being in a pitch black room, lying on a bed or table or some kind of elevated surface. A few meters off to my left side, I observed an extremely bright light that was white in color, shining through what appeared to be some kind of doorway. The light was as bright as a white star, but did not hurt my eyes. I saw silhouettes of 3 entities emerge from the light and begin walking over to me. I could not make out any fine details, but their bodies seemed to be a bit more slender than a typical human body, and their heads slightly larger. I was not able to accurately gauge their height, but I estimate they were around 4 to 5 feet tall. As they emerged from the light, they were accompanied by a taller being that followed behind them. All 4 of them assembled around where the top of my head was positioned as I lied there, unable to move any part of my body except my eyes. Up until that point, I do not recall experiencing any fear, but remember being rather intrigued and curious as to what exactly was going on. And that changed, though. when the larger entity bent over and put its face just a few feet from mine and gazed into my eyes. When its eyes met mine, I was overcome with the most intense fear I have ever felt before or since in my entire life. To be afraid does not even begin to describe the kind of feeling I felt. I've never felt so terrified, so helpless, so low on the food chain. I've been shot at numerous times and have had mortars explode just feet away from me while fighting a war created by the military-industrial complex and corrupt bureaucrats. I know you've heard it before time and time again from others, but experiencing those things could not even compare to the type of fear this being made me feel, Steve. I'm not sure what color its body actually was, but it appeared to be black and had a shine to it like obsidian. Its skin, scales, or whatever, appeared to be very hard like some kind of body armor. Its eyes glowed reddish orange like embers and had vertically slit pupils just like a reptile. The expression on its face looked absolutely menacing. I got the impression from it that it wanted me to know that it was the one in charge and that there was absolutely nothing I or anyone could do to stop it from doing whatever it wanted to do. This being did something to me when it gazed into my eyes. It's hard to explain, but it's like this being absorbed my soul or consciousness into its eyes. As I lay there motionless, staring into this thing's eyes, I began to open my mouth to try to call out, but could barely make a sound. After several seconds of attempting to speak, I finally managed to. My wife had told me the next morning that I had scared the daylights out of her. She told me that she had been awake for some time after I'd fallen asleep next to her in the bed, and at some point in the middle of the night, I began making sounds like I was trying to say something while I was asleep. Then out of nowhere, I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Help me." I've never done anything like that before or since that experience. I remember actually waking up for about a second after yelling that, and my head raising up off my pillow, then almost immediately losing consciousness, perhaps because of the intensity of fear I was feeling, upon waking and feeling my head land back down on the pillow. Sometime, probably a few days later, I was sitting in the bedroom by myself just contemplating life and the experiences I have had. I began to ponder the dream I had where I encountered this being and thought in my head, "Who or what are you?" About as soon as that thought manifested, I had a series of 3 phrases come into my head as if my question was being answered. I'm honestly not sure if these were my own thoughts or if they came from somewhere else, but those three phrases were, quote, "Serpent, Prince of Darkness, Garden of Eden," end quote. I am a spiritual person, but not religious, and was not religious at the time, but I honestly wondered for a while if what I saw was the devil. I am open to the possibility that whatever this thing was, it may have been the same being or same type of being that was mentioned in the Bible and referred to as the snake that Adam and Eve encountered in the garden. I've attached a picture of this email. A few years ago, I was searching the internet to try to find any information I could that might help me make sense of what I had experienced and was looking at pictures to see if I could find anything that resembled the being I saw. When I came across this sketch, the hair on my body stood up and a chill ran down my spine. I don't know who drew this, but I'm sure there could not have been a better depiction of what I saw. Steve, this is exactly what I saw in that dream. There have been very few days that this dream experience, or what you want to call it, hasn't crossed my mind at least once. It profoundly changed my life, and while I do see it as a curse sometimes, I also see it as a blessing in a way. It's caused me to seek out knowledge in areas that most people probably never give much thought to, or are too afraid to explore. I was medically discharged from the Army in 2017 because of mental health issues, mainly anxiety and depression. And for a large period of that time, I was actually afraid to be in the dark by myself in my own damned house. I became extremely nyctophobic. I think most of you probably have a pretty good understanding at this point of how bad this experience effed me up. As someone who enjoys camping in the forest by myself, and even camping/hiking in areas where I know some of these Sasquatch beings are frequently in, This just seemed absolutely ridiculous to me that this one experience, excuse me, had that kind of effect on me. But I now understand that I'm not the only one that has gone through this type of thing. Excuse me. I've made a lot of progress in getting over this fear, but this email has taken me several days now to actually type out because of work and other things. I've been reliving those experiences as I type this, and at 32 years old, have had to sleep with a dim light on in my room for most of the night since I started. I used to try to convince myself there was nothing/nobody in my room when memories of those experiences would enter my mind and cause me to become anxious and paranoid. But I learned that that was not a very effective way of dealing with the anxiety. I now tell myself that if I do have an encounter with anything, that I will simply face it and that the experience will be temporary. I also like to remind myself that I'm a fragment of God, along with everyone and everything else, and that God's love and divine power lies within each and every one of us. If there's anybody out there that needed to hear this, I hope it has helped you to feel that you are not crazy, that you're not alone. My heart breaks for those who've had traumatic experiences that have led to them giving up their passions and love for the outdoors and living their lives in fear. There's more that I could tell about that. There's more that I could tell, but I think this email has become long enough. I know there are many other voices that need to be heard. Thank you, Steve, so much for what you're doing. I've learned a lot from listening to all the wonderful people whose voices you have shared on your channel, and you can share my name. The people I'm closest to have all heard my story and seemingly know I'm not full of shit or trying to seek attention by telling weird-ass, bizarre stories, so it doesn't really matter to me what everyone else thinks. Brandon Wilkerson, Fort Worth, Texas. P.S. My handle on YouTube is Standing Bear. If anyone has any questions for me about anything that I've shared, feel free to post them in the comments. I'm not much of a beer/whiskey drinker anymore, but if you're ever around in north central Texas, Steve, I'd love to share a pot or two of coffee with you and have a nice babbling session. Also, the Club of No Return sweatshirt was incredibly comfy, and I love wearing it in my hikes. So big thanks to Sarah. Choice of fabric and badass logo. All right, man. Appreciate it, Brandon. Fort Worth, been there. Stockyards? Been to the Stockyards, stayed there. That's a crazy-ass experience, man. Now, I believe, if you can, I don't know if you are the type that might be able to be induced into being hypnotized or not, but it's a popular thing for people to go under hypnosis and taken back to reliving various experiences in their lifetime, all the way back to being a child. So you might want to try it. I've had a lot of people come on here. Actually, I've had a huge celebrity who kept the name private contacted me and keeps wanting to go under hypnosis to be taken back to the day something was standing over top of him looking at him as a kid camping. There's a lot of people that do the hypnosis thing, though. So I wonder if you might want to take that for a next step. I mean, sharing what you've experienced obviously is going to helps everybody that emails in. But you might want to look into that, or anybody else out there just sitting in the bleachers listening and not sharing. Apparently, allegedly being taken back via hypnosis helps. Wow. I don't like being scared. I don't like being scared at all. The second I hear somebody being terrified from somebody's eyes, it just makes me. It puts me there in a way, and the reaction I get is I just want to defend, right? Fight. I don't like being scared of anybody or anything. So I always try to go on the opposite. The opposite. Anyway, lots to think about today, right? There's some crazy ass shit going on the planet. Crazy ass shit. Anyways, I gotta get moving. A friend of mine, logger, phoned me up. Texted me, I guess, last night and asked me if I want to go check out some yellow cedar logs. And they're for free. Might be handy to have for lumber here or something. I don't know. I'm gonna go check out that wood with him. It's raining. I might go into the woods tomorrow, maybe. I got 7 trail cameras out there in the middle of nowhere. But I'm not sure if it's too early or not. I want to leave them as long as I can because it just sucks to make you think you might miss out on that great big bull elk or whatever. But I got to collect them up before I go up north, so that's only a handful of days away. I might do that tomorrow, and I'll take everybody with me and show you what I see. Maybe get some voices heard out there. What else? Joe Rogan. I'm not sharing any emails anymore, you guys, for those curious. But the Joe Rogan experience and Donald Trump. Everybody's freaking out. Oh my God. Donald Trump's going on Joe Rogan. I'm not going to... I listened to a couple clips from it, but I wasn't overly interested because, I mean, at this stage of the game, we've heard it all, right? We've heard a lot of interviews. We've heard a lot of people speaking. We've heard it all. Not much is going to change. But one thing that maybe raised a bit of a flag was when Joe Rogan asked Donald Trump, asked him flat out, you were going to, previously, when you're president, you were going to release and open up the Kennedy files, the Kennedy assassination files. And he said, are you going to do that? And then he started sidestepping. He didn't offer up any details. All he said was, at the time, lots of real good people, legit people, asked him, don't do it because, quote, a whole bunch of people were still living today that were involved. So, I'm picturing me in that position. I probably would have screamed out the names and the addresses and the whole 9 yards, no matter what. So, it kind of throws a red flag up to me. It's like, okay, who is still intimidating enough to silence somebody who is allegedly here for the people, not part of the establishment? You know what I mean? And then he also asked us another clip where he asked him about UFOs and whether or not they're real. And he didn't give a overly direct answer on that topic, just sort of sidestepped. But it just those two answers right there made me kind of go, huh? What's going on? What we know from the people, if you are anywhere in that top of that elite crowd, you probably know a lot more when it comes to UFOs, right? Or extraterrestrials. So, why at this stage of the game would somebody sidestep answering that directly? Because we know that it is valid. There is some beings coming and going, or maybe they're here full time, who knows? But they are absolutely authentic. And it just kind of makes me go, I'm not saying anything bad, that's for sure. I'm just saying, no matter who it is, I just got a funny feeling, man. My gut's screaming. It doesn't matter who gets in that position to be a leader. I just don't think it really, 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 truly matters right now. If you watch what's going on in the planet in the past handful of years and take a look at the faces, the public faces that are allegedly in control of what's going on, there's no way they're smart enough. There's no way. I don't think. I think there is a very strong force behind the scenes calling the shots. That's what I believe. And then when you see somebody like Donald Trump sidestepping on just the assassination of Kennedy way back when and not fully answering, he did say, well, I will open those up. When I'm elected, I will open up the file. All right, sitting on my hands, pins and needles, waiting, anticipation, but I got a funny feeling that's not going to go down. What do you think? What do you think? I'm not getting at, no, I don't need to hear what you think about Donald Trump or Joe Rogan or anybody else. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is I'm still seeing indicators that the public faces of people in control aren't who is in control. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. And then as soon as I see a little bit of a red flag come up, I look at it. Oh, we still have a little red flag there that there is still a group or an individual who is absolutely intimidating enough still to keep somebody who's allegedly brave from speaking truth on a topic. It's a red flag for me. We'll see what happens, right? See what happens. Anyway, I'm out of here. Stop myself from babbling. I got shit to do. Get out there and do something you love to do today, all right? Please. Or tomorrow. Just do it. Later.